Erev Tov, Gemar Chatima Tova, as we welcome in Yom Kippur, Kol Nidre. We start, our very first action is remembering loved ones we've lost through the act of lighting our memorial candle, our Ner Neshama. I invite you to light a candle at home with us as we join together in the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai notea b'tochenu chayei olam. You are blessed, Eternal One, who places within us life everlasting. And we light our Yom Tov candles, which I invite you to do at home as well. And we join together in the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim. We join together in our Shehechianu prayer, thanking God for allowing us to be in this moment together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kimanu v'hidiyanu b'zman hazeh.
Trusty and true, but feathers fell from our wings. And we've wanted to be worthy of you, but whether take back what is done, what is past. So, fellas, lay down your fears, 'cause we can't take back what is done, what is past. So let us began our service on page 14 with Seder Kol Nidre, our prayer asking for God to release us from all of the vows, all of the things that we found that we were not able to live up to, as we begin to think about the new year moving forward. If you're able, please rise as we open the ark and hold our Torah scroll. Yom Kippur, the Jewish people's festival of the soul, and Kol Nidre, its Sefer portal, a night of deep emotions, a night, as the psalmist wrote, to rejoice with trembling. We rejoice at the sound of Kol Nidre, rhythmic words of release from vows, oaths, and promises to God we fail to keep. We tremble at the melody, music of spiritual amazement. It fills us with awe as we stand before God and Torah. We rejoice that we stand together, strengthened by community, in this hour of shared weakness and humility. We tremble, for tonight we confess our flaws, admit our imperfection, and acknowledge a power far beyond our understanding. We rejoice that we commit ourselves to great endeavors because we feel so deeply and think so nobly. We tremble, for we find that our ideals are far greater than our ability. Our promises surpass our might. We rejoice in the freedom that is Kol Nidre's true gift, the freedom to begin a new year without fear of failure, to aspire to be God's image in the world. We tremble because we are mortal. We rejoice in our gratitude for life. We rejoice with trembling and enter Kol Nidre to face our humanity.
all vows, resolves, and commitments, vows of abstinence and terms of obligation, sworn promises and oaths of dedication that we promise and swear to God and take upon ourselves from this day of atonement until next day of atonement. May it find us well. We regret them, and for all of them we repent. Let all of them be discarded and forgotten, abolished and undone. They are not valid and they are not binding. Our vows shall not be vows, our resolves shall not be resolves, and our oaths, they shall not be oaths.
Kol Nidre ve'esarei ve'charamei ve'konamei ve'chinuyei ve'kinusei u'shevuot. Adin darna udeish tebana udeacharina v'dasarna al nafshatana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim haba aleinu l'tova kulhon icharana v'hon kulhon yehon sharan shvikim shvitim betelin uvutalin la sharirin v'la kayamin nidrana la nidre ve'esarana la esare u'shevuatana la shevuot.
All shall be forgiven, the entire community of Israel and the stranger who lives in their midst, for all have gone astray in error. Moses prayed to God, as you have been faithful to this people ever since Egypt, please forgive their failings now, in keeping with your boundless love. And God responded, I forgive as you have asked.
Do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do. blessing. Blessed in this moment now and every now to come. Blessed is the blessed one. Blessed is the giver of blessing. Blessed in this moment now and every now to come. Come all of you, come all of us, and bless the one who blesses God. Come all of you, come all of us, and bless the one who blesses. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Come all of you, come all of us, and bless the one who blesses God. Come all of you, come all of us, bless the one who blesses.
You may be seated, and we'll continue on page 25 with Ma'ariv Aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your great name fills the universe with majestic might. Your word creates twilight and dusk, as your wisdom opens the gates of night. Your discernment separates the changing seasons and causes the passage of time. The stars, arrayed across the sky, reveal your design. You roll out the cycle of darkness and light, shaping day and night. You sweep away day and carry the world into nightfall, setting day apart from nighttime. You are God of all we can perceive and all that is beyond our perception. Living, eternal God, be our sovereign to the end of time. Baruch atah Adonai HaMa'ariv Aravim.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, אהבת עולם בית ישראל, אהבת עולם, אהבת עולם בית ישראל. What a great love, a great love, what a great love you have given us. What a great love, a great love, what a great love you have given us.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam
et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'otecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzo beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiyot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. At the beginning of creation, God spoke, and primordial light infused all existence, contained in radiant vessels. An intention arose in the mind of God to create a being capable of choice, able to distinguish good from bad, holy from profane. God breathed in, Tzimtzum, and for the smallest moment was absent, to make space for human beings to develop their godly essence as expressed in the divine intention. Let us make the human being according to our image. Utter darkness reigned. The forces of chaos tore at the cosmos. The vessels were broken. All creation threatened to fall asunder. At that instant, when darkness was complete and creation was in peril, the human being came into existence. And God breathed out again, filling the universe once more with splendor. But what of the rays of light that escaped from the broken vessels? Were they lost forever? Now the fusion of divine intention and human potential became clear, for human beings are able and thus commanded to retrieve the wandering rays of light, those entangled in darkness, lost in unlikely corners of the universe. Each act of kindness, each effort to be human in inhuman circumstances, returns a spark of light to its source. The rays of light are everywhere, and when all have been retrieved and uplifted, the messianic time of peace will be upon us. Continue with Mi Chamocha on page 40.
Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you,
La 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 la.
Amidah begins on page 46. Please rise if you are able and join with us.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Koneh Hakol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, u'Mevi Geula livnei v'neihem, L'ma'an shemo be'ahava, Zochreinu lechaim, Melech hafetz b'chaim, V'chotfeinu b'sefer ha'chaim, L'ma'ancha Elohim chaim, Melech ozer, u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Amen. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah rav le'hoshia, Morid atah, Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech nofim v'rofei cholim, u'matir asurim, u'mekayem emunato l'shenei afar, micha mocha b'gvurot, u'mido melach, melech meimit u'mechayeh, U'matzmiach Yeshua, Micha Mocha, El Harachamim, Zocher Yitzura, L'chaim berachamim, V'ne'eman atah, L'hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kedoshim b'chol yom yahalalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamelech hakadosh.
Let's take a few moments now for silent prayer and reflection.
I am sure that you have all heard the phrase, the first step towards recovery is at first admitting you have a problem. I want to tell you all here tonight that our country has a problem. The problem is racism, and we all, either consciously or unconsciously, are part of that problem. Now, before you log off, please let me explain. We need to first start off by defining what racism is and what it is not. Racism is pernicious in our country. It is harmful and disturbing and pulls at the very fabric of our society. But it is not something perpetrated only by mean or evil people. It is a part of our society itself, invented, reinvented, and reinforced in myriad ways. From the books we read, to the TV that we watch, to the ways in which we see our white privilege as basic rights that are often denied to people of color. We are part of a long-standing system that once upon a time carefully crafted prejudices against a particular group, people of color, then systematized discrimination in our legal system, our public discourse, our schools, and our neighborhoods, and then gave these racist ideologies legal authority and institutional control. When I say that we are part of this problem, it's because we all, in big ways and in small, are a product of a racial socialization that has created a hierarchy, placing those who are white or who are white appearing, those who can blend, above people of color. Can a person of color be prejudiced and discriminatory? Sure. But prejudice is how you are socialized, and discrimination is how you personally act on that socialization. Racism, however, is about power. Power in our legal system, power in our government, and it is white people who have controlled and still control that power. In her book, White Fragility, Robin DiAngelo, a local UW professor, chips away at the foundation of why it is so hard to talk to white people about racism. These white people that she speaks of are not white supremacists or neo-Nazis. These white people are just like me and like many of you. D'Angelo writes that progressive whites are actually the hardest to talk to. And it's because we are the ones that don't want to admit that we have a problem or are part of the problem. And that is why we are perhaps the biggest problem of all. Most people see white supremacists or neo-Nazis and can easily identify their mental and moral instability, although they still have a very loud voice, even in places of power. Most sane people are able to easily discern their negative ideologies and distance themselves. Progressive whites, on the other hand, do things on a near daily basis that might not even register most of the time, but that work behind the scenes to reinforce racism in our society. For instance, how many of you, when you see someone driving poorly, look to see who is behind the wheel and then make some kind of judgment based on their race or outward ethnicity? How many of you assess whether or not you are in a bad part of town based on the color of the people you see there? How many of you walk a little faster or clutch your bag a little tighter when you are walking on the street at night and see a black man? How many of you see a person of color running in street clothes and assume some kind of crime must have been committed, and then feel awful when you realize that they are running to catch a bus? How many of you, when you see a single person of color at an event, assume they must be part of the wait staff or maintenance crew? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not a bad person. As D'Angelo points out in White Fragility, quote, "All humans have prejudice. We cannot avoid it. If I am aware that a social group exists, I will have gained information about that group from my cultural framework. People who claim not to be prejudiced are demonstrating a profound lack of self-awareness." End of quote. Prejudgment of a person based upon the social group to which they belong is not, in and of itself, racism. It is prejudice. And that prejudice is often the product of our socialization by a society that, through its history, has continually spread a single and pervasive message. White people are superior. Brown and black people are inferior. White people are good. Brown and black people are bad. That trope has been woven into every aspect of American life, from our textbooks to our cartoons, our movies to our fashion magazines, our news reports to our casual conversations. It's only when you act on these prejudices that you begin to discriminate, when that discrimination becomes a part of public policy and gains legal authority. It's racism. When we, you and I, either support, tacitly uphold, or don't actively oppose these racist systems, we all become de facto racist. You and I don't want to be racist. We don't want to unwittingly keep people of color down and force our white privilege on them at their expense. We want to be better. We want to do better, but often we don't even know where to start. I once had a student in Cincinnati, an 18-year-old bright young woman who was headed off to college. After a day of talking about racial justice and the inequality that people of color face in our communities, she looked at me and said, "I don't know why you are telling us this. This has been around forever, and it isn't likely to change. What do you expect us to do?" I went home that evening horribly discouraged. How was our society ever going to improve if our young people just didn't seem to care, or might care but didn't believe they had the power to change anything? I'm sure some of you might be sitting there tonight asking yourself many of the same questions and feeling totally impotent to do anything. Yes, this is about our society and how we have been socialized to be racist. But societies are made up of individuals, of people just like you and me. The task might feel daunting, but we don't have to throw up our hands and just blindly accept racism as something that is inevitable and that will never change. Admitting you have a problem is the first step to recovery. This, in a nutshell, is our message of Yom Kippur. We have to own up to our own human failings and try to do better. How can you do true tshuva if you don't think you have done anything wrong? More importantly, once you admit to yourself that you are part of the problem, how do you go about fixing it so that your atonement is sincere and meaningful? First, we need to acknowledge a few basic facts. Number one, our racist socialization causes police to react with fear and violence to people of color. We need to demand meaningful change in policing. Many of our police are wonderful public servants, and I personally don't favor the defunding of police departments. I rarely find that organizations improve with less funding. But we should, as an informed citizenry, scrutinize where the funding is going and insist on education and training for officers that has had a proven track record for success in de-escalating police violence and brutality towards people of color. Number two, segregation is alive and well in this country. As long as there are Black neighborhoods and white neighborhoods, Black schools and white schools, a school to prison pipeline, and private prisons that benefit from Black labor, the new modern day slavery, we will never see an end to this racial tension in our country. Separate is never equal. Number three, we need to realize that our worldview is shaped by how society perceives us. I personally am a white-appearing Ashkenazi Jew who, without a kippah, a talit, or any other external identifying mark, can blend or even hide within the rest of white society when it benefits me. Conversely, when I don't want to be lumped in with the white majority, I can lay claim to my Jewish roots and our people's history of oppression. This is the ultimate in white privilege. When a person of color speaks out against institutional racism or police brutality or other forms of racial discrimination, we need to respect their voice, even if we are uncomfortable with parts of their message. It takes courage for them to speak out, especially when they might suffer personal negative consequences. Punishing Black celebrities for making statements about racial inequality, telling them that they should just shut up and play football or basketball or sing us a song or make us laugh, it's just another form of slavery and oppression. Number five, we need more Black leaders in government institutions, but it is up to the powerful white majority to make that happen, and it will be an uphill battle. Black people in power often make white people edgy. It's a new paradigm. It doesn't follow the established racial hierarchy and can make many of us feel nervous or guilty or simply uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable is good. Discomfort leads to change. Number six, we need to say proudly, Black lives matter. We don't have to agree with everything that every leader or supporter of the movement says about Jews or Israel. But even the Jewish Council of Public Affairs states boldly on their website, quote, "Today's Black Lives Matter movement has become one of the most prolific social movements in decades. It is a movement focused on improving the safety and well-being of Black people in the US, achieving racial justice and ending racial disparities in all areas of our society. When Jews are asked to march with or just assert Black Lives Matter, we are not being asked to check our love of Israel at the door or embrace an anti-Semitic agenda. To most, invoking the phrase, Black Lives Matter, is an inspiring rallying cry and a demand for racial justice. That fight for racial justice is also a fight for our own multiracial, multi-ethnic Jewish community, end quote. And finally, number 7, we need to check our assumptions, our discomfort, our privilege, and often our complete lack of understanding. We need to develop the ability to have an honest dialogue around racial issues, because right now, most of us are not willing or able to be self-aware and admit that we are part of the problem. We need to stop saying things like, I'm colorblind when it comes to race, or I don't see color. Not only is this statement patently false, because we are all socialized with racial prejudices. It says to our Black and brown brothers and sisters that we don't see them, their uniquenesses, their struggles, and what they have to offer our society. We need to let go of our outmoded talking points, realize that none of us are immune from racism, and start truly listening. I once asked a rabbinic mentor the question, what do you think the congregation needs to hear on the high holidays? And he said, you never write a sermon that the congregation needs to hear. You write a sermon that you need to hear. I want you to know that tonight, I myself am engaging in real Chava. I have not been the kind of leader that you need at the forefront of this pressing issue. I didn't release a statement in the early days of the recent Black Lives Matter protest because I was so afraid of saying the wrong thing. We did eventually release a statement of our support, but not until after I was approached by a member of our congregation, a Jew of color, who was upset with my silence on the issue. I want to make a promise to you tonight. I will not make that same mistake again. Our tradition has had a long and proud history of questioning, of debate, of disagreement, and dissension. It's part of my calling as a rabbi to not keep silent on sensitive issues out of fear or discomfort. Clearly, I am trying to turn over a new leaf in this new year. But I beg you, if there's anything that I've said tonight or over these high holidays, or that I might say in the foreseeable future that you don't understand or with which you don't agree, please, please, don't just walk away. We need to engage in dialogue on these important topics. You might not change my mind, and I might not change yours. That is not the goal. The discussion, the willingness to wrestle with these issues is what has kept Judaism alive for thousands of years, and it is more crucial today than ever. Our country is bleeding and broken. We need to work to heal the wounds created by years of slavery, oppression, segregation, and institutional racism. But our past doesn't have to dictate our future. I want to work with you all to make America greater. But we can only do that if we acknowledge that there is no mythical past that we can return to where America has ever been great for people of color. The future is our only hope, but only if each one of us is willing to see the situation for what it is, to see ourselves as part of the problem and commit to change. We can change. I believe we can. But that change must begin with each and every one of us, and it has to start right now. We may all be racist, but we don't have to stay that way. Recovery is possible. Tonight, won't you take that first step with me?
God of holiness, we hear your message. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Justice, justice you shall pursue. God of freedom, we hear your charge. Proclaim liberty throughout the land. Inspire us through your teachings and commandments to love and uphold our precious democracy. Let every citizen take responsibility for the rights and freedoms we all cherish. Let each of us be an advocate for justice, an activist for liberty, a defender of dignity. And let us champion the values that make our nation a haven for the persecuted, a beacon of hope among the nations. May our actions reflect compassion for all people within our borders and abroad. May our future leaders and officials embody the vision of our founders to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. We pray for courage and conscience as we aim to support our country's highest values and aspirations. The hard-won rights that define us as a people, the responsibilities that they entail. We are grateful for the rights of liberty, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that our founders ascribed to you, our Creator. We pray for their wisdom and moral strength that we may be guardians of these rights for ourselves and for the sake of all people, now and forever. Amen.
We continue now on page 82 with the confessional section of our service, the vidui section. We join together in two versions of the vidui Zuta, the short confession, and the vidui Rabbi, the long, the great confession. Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence. And when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong. Continue with Ashamnu. If you are able, please rise.
Yai la lai lai lai, yai la la lai lai lai, yai la la lai lai lai. Ashamnu, Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Bagadnu. Gazalnu,
Gazalnu,
Dibarnu Dofi,
Dibarnu Dofi,
Heavinu,
Ha'avinu,
Vehir Shanu,
V'hir Shanu,
Zadnu,
Zadnu,
Chamasnu,
Chamasnu,
Tafalnu Sheker,
Tafalnu Sheker,
Yai-la-lai, lai-lai, lai-la-lai, lai-lai, yai-la-lai, lai-lai, Yatznu Ra,
Yatznu Ra,
Kizavnu,
Kizavnu,
Latznu,
Latznu,
Maradnu,
Maradnu,
Niatnu,
Niasnu,
Sararnu,
Saranu,
Avinu,
Avinu,
Pashanu,
Pashanu,
Sararnu,
Saranu,
Kishinu Oreh,
Kishinu Ora,
Yai-la-lai, lai, lai, yai-la-lai, lai, lai, yai-la-lai, lai, lai, Rashanu,
Rashanu,
Shichatnu,
Shichatnu,
Tiavnu,
Tiavnu,
Ta'inu,
Tainu,
Titanu,
Titanu. Of these wrongs we are guilty. We betray, we steal, we scorn, we act perversely. We are cruel, we scheme, we are violent, we slander, we devise evil. We lie, we ridicule, we disobey. We abuse, we defy, we corrupt, we commit crimes. We are hostile, we are stubborn, we are immoral, we kill, we spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray. Continue on page 86 with Viduya Rabbah, our long confession. For these sins, our God, we ask forgiveness. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'zadon uvishgaga, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'dibur peh.
The way we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouths.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'imutz halev, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'tifshut peh.
The way we have wronged you by hardening our hearts, and harm we have caused in your world through careless speech.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'chachash uvchazav, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha birchilut.
The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha biflilut, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'zilzul horim umorim.
The way we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'vidui peh, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'honaat re'ah.
The way we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'chokzek yad, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'maseh uvmatan.
The ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business.
Ve'al kulam Eloha salichot, selach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu. Ve'al kulam Eloha salichot,
all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bagalui uvasater, v'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bivrakat o.
The way we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by losing self-control.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha biglui arayot, v'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'ma'achal uvmishteh.
The way we have wronged you through sexual immorality, and harm we have caused in your world through a consumption of food and drink.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'yetzer hara, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'neshech uvmarbit.
The way we have wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through greed and exploitation.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'latzon, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'intiyat garon.
The way we have wronged you through cynicism and scorn, and harm we have caused in your world through arrogant behavior.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'sinat chinam, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'tumat sfatayim.
The way we have wronged you by hating without cause, and harm we have caused in your world through offensive speech.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'lishon hara, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'tzarut ayin.
The way we have wronged you with a slanderous tongue, and harm we have caused in your world through a selfish or petty spirit.
Ve'al kulam elo hasalichot selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu.
In 2020, we add an Al Chet offer to the Jewish community by Avila McCoy, founder of Ayeka, for the sins we have committed through conscious and unconscious racial bias, for the sins we have committed through hardening our hearts to the need for change, for the sins of colluding with racism, both openly and secretly, for the sins we have committed through uttering racist words, for the sins we have committed through acts of racial microaggression, for the sins we have committed through insisting on urgency and perfectionism as a measure of human value.
Ve'al kulam elo hasalichot selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu.
We turn now to Shema Kolenu on page 98, asking God to please hear our call and accept our prayers.
Shema
God of forgiveness, we come before you in need of compassion. At Sinai, you spoke words that guide our lives to this day, but our ancestors lost faith in you, lost hope in their Redeemer. With one voice they had promised, we will do and obey, and yet, stiff-necked, they broke their word, adoring an idol of gold. How wondrous your compassion in the face of their rebellion, your forgiveness in that moment of human weakness and doubt. We too have broken promises to you. We too worship the work of our own hands. We too make of gold a god, and we too forsake your word. At Sinai, you revealed 13 attributes of mercy. These aspects of your nature, your very essence, we now recall.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed V'Emet, Notzer Chesed Le'olafim, Nosei Havon V'Fesha V'Chata V'Nakeh.
Adonai, Adonai, God, compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving and true, showing mercy to the 1,000th generation, forgiving evil, defiance and wrongdoing, granting pardon.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed V'Emet, Notzer Chesed La'olafim, Nosei Havon V'Fesha V'Chata V'Nakeh.
Our God and God of our fathers and God of our mothers, do not abandon us, leaving us in shame. Do not dissolve the covenant you made with us. Rather, draw us near to your teaching. Show us your ways and teach us how to live. Let us be open to your love, ready to revere your every being. Cut away the hardness of our hearts so that we may turn to you with all our heart's devotion, truly repentant. For the sake of your great name, pardon our failures, forgive our moral weakness, as in the holy words of your psalmist, Adonai, as befits your name, forgive my sin, no matter how great. We turn now to page 114 for Avinu Malkeinu, standing before our Torahs. I invite you to rise if you are able and join with us.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu, Ve'al ol Aleinu, Ve'tapeinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kale Dever, Ve'cherev Ra'av, Me Aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kale Chol Tzar, malkeinu kodfeinu besefer chayim tovim Avinu malkeinu chadesh aleinu Shana Tova Avinu Malkeinu Chadesh Aleinu Shana Tova Avinu Malkeinu Shma Koleinu Shma Koleinu Shma Koleinu
Continue standing for Aleinu on page 116, reminding us that the call is upon us to live God's praise. Let's join together.
It's up to us to call ourselves to task, to sing what's good and true, to bring about redemption. It's what we were free to do. For what's the point of being here if we're not moved to change our ways? Aleinu lishabeya. It's time to live our praise.
We are carrying the stories of the ones who came before. But stories will be told of us when we are here no more. We commit ourselves to action. It brings meaning to our days.
Aleinu lishabeya. It's time to live our praise. It's up to us to own the vision. We are an answer to a call. It's up to us to live the words we speak for the benefit of all. It's up to us to bow down deeply. There's a broken world to raise. Aleinu lishabeya. It's time to live our praise. Aleinu lishabeya. It's time to live our praise.
Our thoughts turn to loved ones now, whom death has taken from us. In recent days, those who died at this season and in years past, and our hearts open to the wider circles of loss in our community, and wherever grief touches the human family. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing in this new year and always. We join together for our mourners Kaddish Kadisha Tome on page 122. If you are able, please rise. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba.
Amen.
Ve'alma divrach yorotei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayachon uv'yomechon uv'chayed kol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru.
Amen.
Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela ul'ela mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiram be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim alinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'romav hu ya'aseh shalom alinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace bestow peace on all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved. We say together, Amen. You may be seated. There is so much work to do in our world. Over the holidays on Rosh Hashanah and tomorrow for Yom Kippur, we've been delving into different topics of justice that call for on us to rise up and face the problems of our world in order to be partners with God and make our world a true vision of holiness. This past month, we have been experiencing climate fires that are unprecedented, which reminds us that amidst all the other struggles that we are dealing with, that we cannot forget about our fight for the environment, for our climate, to save our world so that we have a beautiful world for future generations. We'll close tonight with Stand Up.
We stand on the earth, so we better stand for her together. We stand on the earth, so we better stand for her together. Stand up for Mother, stand up for each other. Stand up for Mother, stand up for each other. We were put in this paradise, it's our job to guard her life. We were put in this paradise, it's our job to guard her life. Stand up for Mother, stand up for each other. Stand up for Mother, stand up for each other. Oh, 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 oh,
If you are fasting on this Yom Kippur, may your fast be a source of meaning and inspiration. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow.